I got an interesting DM on Twitter a few days ago. I don't want to show it, but essentially it's just a player who was saying that he was in P2 and he feels like he's in a slump. He feels like he's hit a wall and he's plateaued. And this is not a feeling unique to him. I know from my own experience that you'll feel like this at some point. But it's how you react to this feeling and what you do afterwards to improve that will really determine how good you can get at the game. Before we get to that solution, let's talk about the cause of the problem. I'm going to put a graph up here of the Dunning-Kruger effect, which basically says at your lowest amount of competence, so let's say you're just starting out at Valorant and you don't understand the game, your confidence is very high. It's like ignorance is bliss, right? You don't know anything about the game, so any kills that you get, anybody that you kill, you feel great. You feel great because you don't know the intricacies of the game, yet you're still making something happen on the screen, and that makes you happy and that boosts your confidence. But as you start to play and as you start to understand the game more and more, and you build up your competence and you understand what's going on, your confidence starts to wane. And in your head, you're probably thinking, why is that? Why is the fact that I'm gaining more knowledge making me less confident? And it's because you're starting to understand how little you actually know about the game and how much work it's going to take to get to where you want to be. That middle part of the graph where it says I know nothing is the valley of despair. And this is where most people will drop off. This is where most people feel like I'm not good enough to really make it anywhere. This is a waste of time. I think I'm done. And it's not like a switch that flips in your head that says, okay, today I like this game and tomorrow I hate it. It's a very gradual decline. That's why the graph looks like that. But as you start to go back up that other side of the slope to the expert level, it's somewhere where I've never been. I'll be honest about that. I've never been an expert at any game, but the closest I've been to it is 1 in Counter-Strike and 2 in Street Fighter 5, which I'm not even super good at. I'm just getting out of that intermediate stage and trying to get to somewhere higher. But that feeling that you get on the way back up is worth it. It's worth it to keep trying because things start to make sense. You're starting to understand it and things get easier. And it feels super rewarding in that sense. So like I said earlier, it very much depends on how you react to this wall that you've hit, to this plateau that you feel like you've hit, and how you react to being in this valley. Usually there's 2 things that happen. There's 2 paths that you can take. One is you give up on the game. You slowly fall out of love with it because you can't understand what you're doing wrong and you just drop it. The second one is you grind it out. But when it comes to grinding it out, it's not as cut and dry as it seems. Because when we use that phrase grinding it out, it very much evokes like thoughts of people just playing thousands and thousands of games over hours and hours and days and nights just playing the game. And I can tell you firsthand, playtime does not equal skill. It's how you use that time. Now don't get me wrong, eventually you will have thousands of games and thousands of hours under your belt. That's just something that happens because either you love playing the game or you like applying the things that you're learning. At the end of those 10,000 games, you want to be somewhere significantly higher. You don't want to be like a rank or 2 above where you were before. Let me give you a first-hand example. When I was playing Street Fighter 5, I picked up that game at the end of 2019. And from 2019 to 2021, I got to Diamond. I had never played a fighting game before. It was my first fighting game. And over those years, I played 10,000 ranked matches. To put that into perspective, I played against other people in Diamond and in ranks below that who have 50 to, I think the most I've ever seen is like 102,000. And in those 10,000 games, I used all kinds of resources to get better. I used YouTube. I played offline. I went to events and just played with really strong players. I had a bunch of mentors. I used my resources wisely. So after those 10,000 games, I was Diamond. Those other players who are at 50, 60, 70,000 games are brute forcing their way through the rank system and trying to learn the game. It's just not an effective way to do things. A quarter of their matches, but we're the same rank. And in some cases, those players are even worse than the ones in the lower ranks. They abuse some gimmick that they know weaker players who are starting out can't beat. They just game the system, got all the way up there, and that's just what they do. And once they get up there to Diamond, they keep falling in and out of it because people up there know how to deal with those gimmicks. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, you're grinding all these hours and doing all this stuff, but are you really applying what you're learning? Are you really taking the time to improve? Or are you taking the time to cheese out a win? Having a purpose behind all these hours you're spending and remembering to apply it and try it out. I always say that in every video is at least try it will do you so much good. There's so much more to these games than winning. And I'm sure if you're watching this video and you made it this far, you're starting to understand that, or you already understand that. At the end of the day, a win is just a consequence of your actions. It's just a consequence of how good you played. But that's sort of where like Valorant and other team games differ from my Street Fighter experience. Sometimes you will play very well and you'll still lose. In fighting games, that doesn't really happen. If you play well, you won. It's just you versus another player. you played well, you get the win. You get rewarded for your efforts. In Valorant, you might not be rewarded with a victory. You might be rewarded in some other way. That's why it's even more important for your happiness to not hinge on winning and losing in this game. You have to see that you're improving and relish in that glory. Like, understand that, yes, I played well and we lost, but it's not anybody's fault and it's not my own fault. And in fact, I played very well, and this is what I did well. This is what I did badly. Very much a game of push and pull when you're trying to get to higher levels in this game and in Street Fighter and any other game you pick up or anything you pick up. It's a game of push and pull with your ego, I feel like. Because you have to relish in your victories, but you also have to reprimand yourself for the things that you did wrong without sort of disturbing that balance of your ego. Because you don't want to bag on yourself too much to the point where you get discouraged, and you don't want to inflate your ego so much to where you set yourself up for failure, you know? Because you can only inflate your ego so much until it pops or until somebody has to come by and pop it for you. And on the flip side, there's a difference between being hard on yourself and discouraging yourself. It's a balancing act that's different for everybody. Some people are going to be hard on themselves and some people aren't. Some people are going to be able to see what they're doing wrong immediately, and others won't want to accept it. It's a balance that you have to find within yourself from your own gameplay. When you get to that point, you really start to learn a lot about yourself. For me, it was, I learned a lot about how I actually learn, like the act of learning new information and how I absorb it changes based on the medium. Very good at absorbing information once I see an example or once I can ask somebody to show me how to do it. It becomes just a little bit easier for me to understand. It's almost like I have to see somebody do it in order to accept that it's possible at times. Kind of rambling now, so let me wrap this up. Ultimately, I just hope this video helps you keep going at whatever you want to get good at or whatever you're having trouble with. I just want you to know that that feeling is not unique to you. You're not the only one going through it, so don't feel like you're alone in this. Sometimes we hit a wall and we just have to react to it. I hope this video helped you, and if it did, consider subscribing. I'll talk to you again soon.